And let's bring you the latest from the National Assembly, where members of the House of Representatives from the South have opposed the harmonized Petroleum Industry Bill allocation to host communities, which has been pegged at 3%. The lawmakers were heard chanting 5% as against the 3% at the floor of the House on Thursday. The chants continued even as the Speaker, Femi Gbadabiamila, walked in to commence plenary, shortly after the House went into an executive session. Our correspondent Joke Adisa joins us now for more on this development. Joke, run us through what played out at the House of Representatives.
You know that today is indeed a very busy day at the National Assembly. We have both chambers slated to consider and pass the much-awaited Electoral Act Amendment Bill today for Mr. President's assent. But just before the Speaker led the leadership in, we saw a member from Imo State, Honorable Igwe Chinyere, from River State. It was the one that began the chanting of songs, insisting that it has to be 5% for host communities. And so all other members, and let me also say that the minority caucus of the House met yesterday on this same issue. And I want to be, although we were not privy to what was discussed, but from what is playing out, it does seem that that exactly was what the other meeting was about. And so they have resolved to ensure that they do not have less than 5%. At the committee stage, the PIB, the other committee on PIB in the House, agreed on 5%, and we saw the Senate agreed on 3%. So the Speaker constituted a 7-man committee to meet with the Senate to harmonize this, but eventually the Senate had its way, and even the House concurred to 3%, and that did not go well with members, particularly from those from oil-producing states. And so that is where we are now. We are hoping they have gone on an executive session. We are hoping that this will be resolved, and the main business of the day will be taken.
The House of Representatives was going for 5% and the Senate was going for 3%. So do we know at what point the House of Representatives changed its mind on the 5% to 3% and why they have now reverted to 3%?
Yes, the Speaker constituted a 7-man committee to meet with the Senate to harmonize this figure. The only dissenting area they had was that host communities fund. 5% the House agreed on, 3% the Senate agreed on. So what apparently at that stage, at that conference meeting, the House was able to buy into the Senate position, and that is what we have. Okay, so, and that is what we have now. The meeting is on. I have with me Honorable Francis Agbo from Benue State. He's a member of the opposition, the PDP. So he will also be talking to us more on this development. Nice to have you, sir. So give us a further insight into what is happening now this week.
As we speak, we are holding our executive session. Out of respect for you, I had to sneak out to talk to you. The position is very clear. The position of the House is very clear. The position of the minority caucus is very clear. We are unanimous, irrespective of political affiliation, that the host communities should be given 5%, because we don't want problem in the oil-producing states. We don't want problems across the country. The host communities, they are already agitating. They are saying that anything short of 5% is not acceptable to them, and we don't want to go back to Egypt. We don't want to go back to what was happening when oil pipelines, oil installations were blown up. The militants, the ex-militants, the agitators, all of them, that's what they are saying, that they're going to blow up everything. And we at the House of Reps, we are the people's parliamentarians, we believe very clearly that what we need, what the host communities need, is the 5%. And so we are appealing to our colleagues in the Senate to agree with us. As I said, we in the Reps, irrespective of party affiliation, we all agreed on 5% for the host communities, and I think that is not too much.
But will this stall again the passing of this bill yet again?
It will not. That's why we are appealing to them. We are appealing to the Senate. We are appealing to Mr. President that when the bill the PIB finally gets to him, he should do a great service to the country, to Nigeria, by assenting his signature. Because this is not an individual matter, it's not a personal matter, it's not a political matter. The people of the Niger Delta, the people, the oil producing states, deserve this. And of course, tomorrow, I am from Benue. Benue could be an oil producing state. Bauchi could be an oil producing state. Maiduguri could be. KB could be. Or any state in Nigeria could be. Once you become an oil producing state, you tap into the 5%. So we are trying to do what will give us peace in this country. We don't want to go back to those days where oil installations were blown off. So I appeal to Mr. President, I appeal to all the stakeholders, I appeal to the Senate that they should key into what the House of Reps has done.
But there's also this argument that you don't stifle the oil producing companies. That was the argument put forward by the chairman of the committee on PIB, and that was why they had to agree on that.
No. It has to be a two-way thing. It takes two to tango. You're talking about IOC or whatever. What about the communities where people have died as a result of oil exploration, where people are suffering a lot of deprivations as a result of oil activity? Look, if you go to the Niger Delta today, if you go to Oloibiri, for example, it's just a metaphor of the neglect of the oil producing communities. As I speak to you, you go to the terminals, it's an irony. The terminals where monies, billions upon trillions are generated from, they are inaccessible. You go to Boni is inaccessible. You go to Brass, it's inaccessible. You go to Fokado, it's inaccessible. What have we been doing in this country? How do you have communities, oil terminals, where monies are generated, billions of naira are generated, and have been holding this country as the mainstay of this country? How do you have such communities without being accessible to motorists? As I speak to you, nobody accesses those places. So the point I'm making, the oil producing states, the Niger Delta, whatever, they don't want to hear the argument. And you know that the oil has been the mainstay of this country over as far or as long as you can remember. Since independence till now, our major mainstay is oil. And then we don't want anything that will make these people to go back to what they were doing before. I don't want them to go back to the creeks again, because that will worsen our economic problem. We are already having a lot of problems in this country. We have banditry, insecurity here and there. We are practically in recession. So why do you do things that will make these people to see go back? They are threatening. And that's my fear. So it is better we consider, let's put the oil producing communities first before any other thing. We in the minority, that's exactly what we are saying. And then there's also money approved for prospecting for oil. And then the Niger Delta people, stakeholders, they are complaining that they don't want that 30%. But then let's give them the 5%. And for me, it is not too much for them.
All right, let me ask. The main business of the day is the Electoral Act, the Constitution and passage. What should Nigerians be expecting?
Well, Nigerians should expect a big deal from us. We at the House of Reps, we believe that electoral malfeasance is worse than corruption of Naira and Kobo. So, and electoral malfeasance has caused a lot of problems for this country. So Nigerians should expect a very robust Electoral Act amendment. Nigerians should expect that we are going to have election result transmitted electronically. They should also look forward to having a very efficient and effective timeline and timetable. And the Nigerians should also expect us to do the right thing by making INEC more strong. We need INEC to be really independent, because the way INEC is today, we call it Independent National Electoral Commission, but indeed, in actuality, INEC is a dependent commission. It's not independent on its own. So the electoral bill that we're going to work on today, Nigerians should expect a big deal from us. Nigerians should also expect a more transparent, credible election in the 2003 election cycle, because that's what we are doing. We're so bothered that our electoral system has no credibility at all, and that's why we want to work on the Electoral Act. We want to ensure, like I said, election results are transmitted electronically. It is workable. The people who say many areas in Nigeria don't have internet, don't have connectivity, just forget it. INEC has said, if you don't have connectivity in the polling unit, post the result. Once you enter an area that has connectivity, the result will appear. It's just like WhatsApp.
What is the basis for increasing the campaign funds, the campaign fees?
Sir?
The basis for increasing the campaign fees for politicians?
Yeah, it is because of what is happening. You know, you can see that the cost on prices of everything has actually skyrocketed. Logistics and what have you. That is the reason the political parties have to also do a lot of things, logistics, take care of so many things for themselves and all of that, the running of the party. And that is the reason why we must work holistically to ensure that the economy is fine-tuned, the inflation is actually reduced, because as it is, we're having a serious hyper inflation in the country. As inflation skyrockets, the cost of everything, both logistics and whatever, goes up, because the political parties must do something to protect the sanctity of their own candidature and then protect the sanctity of the party too. That's exactly what is happening. But most importantly, I am of the strong view that having a robust electoral act is not an end in itself. Because Nigeria, the problems we have in this country is not about the laws per se, it's about implementation. The political elites, the power elites, many of them, they are so arrogant, many of them are power drunk, many of them are very, very greedy and selfish. And therefore they look for ways of manipulating every law you have in this country. They manipulate the constitution, they manipulate the electoral act. So the point I'm making here is that I want to appeal to the power elites in this country, that they should allow these laws to work. You go to Britain, Britain has an unwritten constitution, but it's a well-organized society. That tells you that the problem is not in its entirety about the law, the legal regime. It's about the human beings, the operators, the implementation. So as this electoral act comes, Nigerians should not expect a perfect electoral act. What Nigerians should do and what the power elites should do, they should allow the system to work itself and correct itself. That's exactly what we need.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Agbo. A good place to end it there. I've been speaking with one of the members of the House of Reps from Benue State, and he has given us further insight into activities here in the National Assembly. And so we are still waiting. The closed doors meeting is still on. We are hoping that any moment from now, the doors will be thrown open and we'll be able to proceed from here.